All right, so looking at a copy of, well, a version of this quiz, there's 18 questions on it. Now, that might sound like a whole bunch, but a lot of them are really quick and easy, which is kind of nice. But there are some where you're going to have to sketch. So I want to kind of cover those things, okay? So they're going to have you draw pictures of these graphs in two different ways. Okay, let me just double check that. But they're going to make you guys do it in two different ways. One using the vertex form, one using the standard form. Okay, so let's cover both of those right now. So, the first problem. We're going to put sketch the graph of the quadratic function. All right. Now, we're going to do it two different ways. Okay, so here's the first one. They're going to give us something that's going to look similar to this. Plus 3. So we'll do that. Okay, so they want us to draw a picture of this. Now remember, when I taught this to you guys, I told you that a lot of times what they want you to do is, get 5 different points, plug them in, figure out some points to put on the graph and all this other stuff. There's a lot of work, right? But I told you guys that there's a faster way to do it. I'm just going to kind of put a grid there just for our sake of graphing this in a bit. Okay? But there is a faster way to do it than to create grids. So there were two things that you needed to figure out. Does anybody remember what those two things were? Like, what two pieces of information are super important based on that equation that I can get? I'm not sure if you guys remember. This was a while back. So the two pieces that you need are the vertex and your A value. Okay, which is our slope, kind of, right? What's my vertex for this? Remember, vertex is HK. What's my HK? All right, -1, 3. Thank you. So -1, 3. Remember, it's always the opposite of what you see, right? Here's your H value. Here's your K value. So H is always the opposite of what you see. K is exactly what you see. So -1, 3. Perfect. What's my A value? -2. Thank you. So my A value is -2. Which way does it open? Down, because it's negative. Okay, so thank you for that. So let me go ahead now. I can graph this. I don't need to do any calculations or anything like that. I can now graph it. Let me go to -1, 3. That's going to be this point right here. Okay, -1, 3. It has to be going or opening downwards. My slope is -2 over 1, right? I have to go down twice and over 1. Now you're going to do it 2 times, one to the left, one to the right. So if I go down twice and over 1, I end up here. There's 1 point right there, because notice 1, 2, and then 1 over, right? So down twice, once over. And then I'm going to do it again, down twice, once over to that side. Okay, so it's going to be another point right there. All you have to do at this point, connect the dots, and you're done. So this, and it doesn't have to look perfect. You're just going to look for an equation that looks similar, right? Because they always give you guys multiple choice questions. So look for one that looks similar to this one. Okay? And there you go. That's your graph. Okay, I'll kind of put the numbers for just the x and the positive y here. Just so you know, we're going by ones. Okay? Any questions on this one? Anything that maybe doesn't make sense? Remember, I'm not forcing you to calculate a bunch of points or anything like that. I just want you guys to be able to find your vertex, your A value, and you're done. Okay, vertex, A value, and you're done. So you're going to have, I think, let me see, I think it's only 2 questions like that, okay? And I can guarantee you that one will be opening up and one will be opening down. How can I guarantee that to you? Because I made the test, okay? So I know there's going to be one up and one down, okay? Now, there's another question like this. So if I can, let me label this part A, okay? I'm going to call it part A, because part B is going to have the same instructions. Sketch the graph of the quadratic function, but it's going to look a little different. So part B, let's say y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 1. So you're going to have 2 of these types of problems, okay, where they're going to want you to graph this, okay? Now, there's 2 pieces that you need from here as well, okay? Well, actually, you need 3 for this one. You need your vertex, just like we did in the other problem. You need your A term, just like we did in the other problem. And you need your Y-intercept, okay? But before I do all that stuff, let me just make a quick grid here for us so that we know what we're going to be graphing. So I'm just going to create one, that way we can put all the information there later, okay? So I'll just label these the positive axes so it doesn't get too messy. And remember, guys, if you ever want grid paper for days where I do practice problems like this, there's always grid paper to the left side of the board in those little brown paper holders there on the bottom. There's tons of grid paper you guys can just grab from them, okay? So you can use them. That way you don't have to worry about drawing these things over and over again. You can just use them whenever we review. So, all right. Y-intercept. We'll start with that because that one's kind of easy. Let's see if you guys remember. This is yesterday's work. What is my y-intercept for this problem? -1. Good. It's this number in the very back, right? The number all by itself. This is your y-intercept. So that's going to be -1. So look, I'm going to go over here and just put a dot right at -1. Or you know what? Let me change the color to purple. Because I like to keep my vertex as red. If you kind of look at all the notes, my vertex tends to be red. So there's my y-intercept. Good, I got 1 point. Now, what's my A term? Now, if you don't remember, let me give you a quick hint. What's my A term? 2. So which way does this open? If it's positive, up, right? So, all right. So we know it's happening at 2. It's going up. So great. Okay. And now I need my vertex. You notice I waited for my vertex because that one requires a lot of work. Okay. If you remember yesterday's work, every time we did vertex, we had to find axis of symmetry. Then we had to plug it in to find the vertex, right? So it took some time. So I'm going to go ahead and put a vertex here. But I don't know it yet. So in order to do the vertex, first I got to find my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to kind of change the color so that you guys can see, like, that's not part of the vertex yet. Axis of symmetry is x equal to -b over 2a. So -b over 2a is what I have to solve for. So do me a favor, guys. Go ahead and figure out my axis of symmetry and give me the answer. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. I'm just going to pause this real quick. Luis Mora, what did you get? -1. All right, let's check it out. So we got -4 over 2 times 2, which is -4 over 4, which is -1. So good. We got -1 for my x value. Okay. So, Eric, where do I plug in that x value to figure out my vertex? Into my equation, right? So let me go ahead and plug it into this equation. Let me rewrite it. That's what I kind of did the other time. So guys, do me a favor. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Plug it in. And right now we'll be back and I'll check with somebody else. All right, so Alina, what did you get for your y value? -3. All right, so let's check it out. Again, I don't know. That's why I'm not saying if you're right or not right. I have no idea. I'm about to find out. So let's plug it in. -1 squared plus 4 times -1 minus 1. So y is 2 times 1 minus 4 minus 1. So that's 2 minus 4 minus 1, which is, you said -3, right? All right, so good. We got -3. You see that x and y value? That's going to be your vertex, okay? -1, -3. Okay, that's right here. -1, -3. So I'm going to go ahead and put that point on my graph. -1, -3 is right here. This is my vertex. That's the low point, and it's opening up, right? It's opening up. You see that purple dot? That's 2 units up and 1 unit over. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side right there. Because remember, that 2 value is my slope. So once I have my vertex, I can just do my slope. 2 up, 1 over. 2 up, 1 over. Once I have that, I graph my picture. So I'm going to zoom out real quick. Which one of these problems would you prefer to do? The first or the second? Yeah, I prefer the first one. There's like no work, right? Just figure out some points and you're pretty much done, right? Whereas the second one requires me to do a bunch of work, right? I have to figure out my axis of symmetry, my vertex, put it together, right? And then I can do my intercepts and all that stuff. But they're not like insanely difficult to do. It's just, they're not as easy as the first one. Okay? So these two examples that we just did, that actually covers 4 types of problems for you guys. Okay, so remember I told you there's 18 questions on the quiz. These are actually, 1B is going to be like the hardest type of question. So it's going to be like this. The 1A problems, you'll have 2 of these. They won't be as hard because you just got to find your vertex, you got to find your slope and graph. Nothing to calculate, right? But you'll also have 2 of these. So those are going to take some time, okay? The rest of the questions that you guys are going to be doing are literally things where you can kind of just look at the problem and you should be able to figure it out, okay? So let me give you an example for those. So question number 2 right here. So what is the axis of symmetry, okay? So they're going to give you 4 of these problems. And there's 2 types of ways you're going to see it. Axis of symmetry. So we're going to put A. And we'll put a 3x squared minus 6x plus 9. That'll be our first one. Now, depending on whether it's standard form or vertex form, okay, and if you want, I'll kind of put it right here. This is in standard form, okay? If it's in standard form, then you have an equation for the axis of symmetry. Let me label this A, B, C, just so you see it, okay? A, B, and C. But the equation is x equals -b over 2a. We just did it, right? That's all they want you to do is figure out -b over 2a. So do me a favor. I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Figure it out. So Karina, what did you get? 1. All right. So again, I just made up this problem, so I have no idea what the answer is. So I got to actually do it as well. So looks right though, because negative of a negative 6. Now be careful. That's kind of tricky right there, right? It's minus b, but if b is negative, it's really minus a minus, right? And then 2 times a, which is 3. So that comes out to 6 over 6, which was 1, which is what you said, right? I don't remember if it was 1 or 2. Okay, so yeah, there you go. So we got our answer. That's it. You have 2 of those types of questions. They're not hard to do. Just you got to know the formula. Okay, if you don't know the formula, you're done. Okay, so make sure you guys write yourself some notes on that. Okay, now the other way they're going to ask you this same question is if the equation looks like this. Now this one is even easier, but you have to remember the formula. Okay, this is vertex form. Okay, vertex form. Does anybody remember the formula for the axis of symmetry in vertex form? It's literally 2 letters. It's x equals, it's just a letter. Anybody remember? H. X equals h. That's your formula. X equals h. But what's h? Negative 4. And you're done. That's it. That one's really easy. Notice how the vertex form is so much easier to graph. It's so much easier to find your axis of symmetry. It's super easy to find your vertex, right? It's just going to be, what, negative 4, negative 5, right?
H is going to, whatever it looks like, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite, yeah. H is a big old liar, right? It doesn't like to tell you the truth. So K is always honest. That's a minus 5. That's what you see. That's what it is. But yeah, H is always opposite. It's funny because my daughter is literally learning this stuff. My youngest one, she's a sophomore right now. She's learning this stuff in her class right now too. So as she's learning it, I'm teaching it to you guys, and every time and she's like, I need help, and I'm like, oh, let me see. Oh, I'm doing this with my students right now too. So she asked me, like, why is it that H is always opposite? And I said, it's because the formula has a negative on the inside. So if it's supposed to have a negative on the inside, but you see a plus, that means the way you turn a negative into a positive is by having a negative number. I said, so it's always opposite to change the sign. So, yeah, she's going through the same questions, like things that you just asked me right now, Patrick. She asked me the same things. Why? Like, is it always going to be different? Like, yes, always, right? So anyway, part B, are we good with that one? Right? X equals H. That's your formula, okay? If you didn't remember that, write it down. Put a little note right here, like, oh, that's your axis of symmetry for vertex form, right? Because you're going to want to use this for your quiz to help you out. So make sure that you're doing that. So there's 4 questions like this, 2 like A and 2 like B. Okay? So far we've covered 8 types of problems, or 8 problems total. We're almost done here. Question number 3. Now, for question 3, they're going to ask us, what is the vertex? Now, just so you know, if you could graph, you can do all of these types of problems because you're going to have to figure out the vertex, the axis of symmetry, etc., right? But they're just piecing them little by little. So they're asking you, what is the vertex? So part A, we'll do the easier one first. Y equal to negative 3 x plus 1 squared plus 1. Now, remember, this is in vertex form. That means you can find your vertex by just finding your HK, right? So my vertex is just HK. Well, what's my HK according to this problem? All right, negative 1, 1. And you're done. There are 2 problems like this on your quiz. Okay? Where you're literally going to be given a vertex form. They're going to ask you find the vertex. You just got to look at it. And it's there. Okay? It's literally right there. But then they got to go and mess things up and give you an equation that looks like this. Okay, and they say, okay, figure out the vertex for that. Well, that one you can't just look at it. You actually have to calculate it, right? That's what we did in the graphing problems. First, you had to find what? Your your x, which yeah is your axis of symmetry, and then you plug it in to find your y value. So this is what I'm going to do. Just like I've been doing with you guys, go ahead and figure out your axis of symmetry first. I'm going to pause it. All right, so Juan, I think, yeah. Juan, what did you get for this?
I got -4.
-4?
Yeah.
All right, so I haven't done it, so let's do it. Let's see. X equals -8 over 2 times 1. Yeah, it's a 1. So x is equal to -8 divided by 2. So good, we got x equal to -4. Awesome. So now we're going to plug it in, right? If you guys remember when Eric said you got to put it into the equation to find out what your y value is. So go ahead and do that. Okay, and I'm going to pause it once I'm done writing this. Then I'll call in someone else to see what you got, okay? All right, so Samantha, do you have an answer? -54? All right. I have no idea, so I'm just gonna, so I don't forget, okay, I'm just gonna write it here. So we're plugging in a -4. So y equals -4 squared plus 8 times -4 minus 6. All right. Y equals -4 squared is 16 minus 32 minus 6. Okay? So 16 minus 32 is -16 minus 6. So I got a -22. Unless I messed something up. Did anybody get a -22? No. So did you get a plus 32? Okay, I figured that when I was doing it, I'm like, oh, she added right here, right? So that's fine though. That's okay. At least we get to see. We got to carry those negatives, right? I do that mistake all the time. I forget to carry negatives. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Just try not to do that on the test, right? Today's okay. Um, but yeah. So all right, we got -22. So they want us to write our vertex. That's what I was doing, right? Yeah. So here you go. Your vertex. So thank you for your help, guys. Vertex is -4, -22. Okay? So, awesome. So we have that. Now, like I told you guys, these are like the hardest parts that we've done so far. What's next is considered the easier parts. Okay? Now, they're going to give you 4 of these problems. I don't even know why they're going to make it 4 because they're all pretty much the same thing. But this is number 4, is it? Yeah. Number 4. Is the vertex a maximum or minimum? Okay, so there is the vertex a maximum or a minimum? Notice I'm not even going to leave a lot of space in between. One of them is going to be in vertex form, and one of them is going to be in standard form. Okay, and all I really have to do is write max or min. Okay, it's either a high point or it's a low point. Okay, what do I have to focus on? Does anybody know what I focus on in order to figure out if it's a high point or a low point? The A term, right? Good, the A term. If I look at my A term, that tells me which way it opens, right? And if it opens up, right, if it's going this way, then what's my vertex? Is it a maximum or a minimum? So, or let me draw you a picture so you can see it. If it opens this way, what's my vertex? A minimum, right? If it opens up, the vertex is at the very bottom. But if it opens down, the vertex is at the very top. So this would be a max, and this would be a min, right? So all you have to figure out is which way does it open. So A, which way does it open? Down. So for part A, it opens down, so that means the vertex is a maximum, right? So I'm just going to write max. All right. What about part B? Which way does that open? Remember, you're looking for your A term. What's my A term for part B? It's 4. So which way does it open? Up, which means it's a minimum, right? So I'm just going to write min. There's 4 problems like this. So hopefully they're easy. There's nothing tricky about them, okay? It's just 2 of them like part A and there's 2 of them like part B, okay? There's nothing tricky. It's not like we're trying to mess with you guys. Like they literally are just you deciding it's maximum or a minimum. So here's the last one and then we're done. And this has to do with y-intercepts. Find the y-intercept. And after this, we're done. Now, I'm only going to do one problem because they're only going to give you 2, and they both look in the same form. They're both in standard form. Okay? Alright, so that's what's given to us. So, Gabriela, what is, I think there's only one, yeah. What is my y-intercept? Do you know what it is? The y-intercept? I can, 10, yeah, it's 10. It's this number in the very back, okay? For standard form, it's the C value. It's always the C value. So, you're just going to write y-intercept. Well, not that you have to write it, but you're just going to basically pick 10, right? And that's it, guys. This is what your quiz is going to be like tomorrow.